Hello, welcome to SQL with Python. In this video, our focus is on introduction to SQL with Python, having completed the playlist on data analysis with Python. Okay, so I know this is for people that are interested in data related careers like data analysis, data science, and all that, data engineering, data architecture, and things like that, business analytics. SQL is one of those things that is really important. And of course, as we're going to see later, SQL is structured query language. So you can call it SQL or you can call it SQL. So anyhow you choose, you can choose either of those two ways to call it SQL or SQL. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. In this video, we'll be looking at databases because SQL is related to databases. And since we're talking about data, right? We just talk about data analysis. So a place where data is stored is databases, right? Data as you can store data in databases for sure. And I mean, if you have a phone, you have a database on your phone, you have a database you're carrying around, right? As we're going to see it shortly. So we'll look at types of databases. We'll understand SQL a bit deeper, and we'll look at Python plus SQL integration. Why do we have to go that way? I remember my introduction to SQL was in 2009 when I was on internship from school as an undergraduate, and then it was I think based on Oracle 10G or something like that, or Oracle 9G. So now we are talking about Python and SQL from here. So Python tools for SQL, we'll look at that, and then we'll look at environment setup. How do you set up SQL or SQL in the Python environment? I think I'm going to stick to SQL. I'm used to calling it SQL instead of SQL. So SQL basics, we'll look at that. We'll look at query SQL from Python. We'll look at SQL data types, and then we'll look at some further resources and how you can contact me if you would like to. By the way, my channel now has membership. So if you really like what's going on here, you can participate. You can join my channel. There are three different categories currently. I'm thinking of extending it to four for some more exclusive things. So you get some special benefits as a member. So everything is right there. So just once you see once you click on my channel, you see the join button there. So you can click on it to see more information there. I'm so excited about that. Okay, so our goals here is to will be to understand databases and their types, to understand SQL and its core operations, to connect SQL with Python using key libraries. So there are libraries in Python that helps you to have access to the SQL database. Then you can create and manipulate databases programmatically, and then you can automate data query and reporting. Right. Then the first question to answer is what is a database? So, a database is basically a structured collection of data. That's a database, and it enables storage, retrieval, and management. So you want to have a place where you store. Imagine Facebook. Can you imagine the kind of database Facebook has, or Instagram, or WhatsApp, and everything? That must be very large, right? In fact, it's so that is so large that they have data centers across the world. All right. So databases are used across domains like finance, healthcare, and everywhere data is used, right? So your database may just be maybe on your own laptop, like maybe you have some spreadsheets and everything. So something like that. So common types of databases are relational, NoSQL, graph, in memory. We are going to see this deep in more depth shortly. So talking about types of databases again, right? We talked about relational, right? That's where you have data in tables, rows, and columns. And the most basic of this is Microsoft Excel. And of course, if you're interested in data, I think the first thing before you start talking about that thing, just master Microsoft Excel first of all. I mean, there are people who make all their money just using Microsoft Excel. So, as a data person, the most basic thing you need to learn is Microsoft Excel, and you can do a whole lot with that. So, very good examples of relational database will be things like my SQL. So I used my SQL when I was working on Oracle 9G. I mean, when I was learning that and teaching it too. Then, of course, now there's SQLite, which is, I think, the most used relational database. And that is one of the things we'll be focusing on. And when you talk about SQL, with Python. SQLite is one of the things you get to talk about. Then there's also no SQL databases which contain flexible schemas like MongoDB and all that. Now, what happens with this is, you have information like maybe in text format or in other formats that it don't necessarily have to be structured for you to be able to reference them according to rows and columns. Then you have graph databases. In them you have data as nodes or edges. Graphs are made of nodes or edges. I have a playlist on graph and network theory on my channel. You want to check it, check it out. You understand more about graph. So when we say graph, it's on the x and y axis kind of graph. Most people are used to in mathematics. So there's a whole field called graph theory, and you can have databases in terms of this. Then you have in-memory databases which are fast and RAM based. An example of that would be Redis. Okay, now we are back with SQL, where of course we talked about SQL because we could talk about databases because SQL they are from the whole idea of the SQL is from databases, right? Storing data, retrieving and managing data. Now, SQL is structured query language, like I said before. You can so that's why it is SQL for short, or you can also say it is SQL. Some people call it SQL. Then it is used for managing relational databases. By the way, we've already said that the relational databases are databases that are arranged in rows and columns in tables, right? And in SQL, we can perform operations like select, insert, update, and things like that. So we're going to see as we go on. As usual, my style is I start from the basic, like what is, and then we go gradually until you get to a place where it's really advanced, and that's exactly what we're doing here. So SQL is a core skill in data science and analytics. So it's really important if you're into the data jobs to know SQL as much as possible. Then uh, now the question again is why combine SQL with Python? Why do we need to do Python SQL integration? Well, one of the reasons for that is to automate and optimize queries. We can also use pandas for data analysis. So, we already know that you can get data from different sources in data analysis, right? And in pandas, I mean, in doing data analysis in Python, you can get data, you can generate your own data by just typing it out as maybe dictionaries or Python data structures like list tuples and all of that. But now bringing SQL into it, so you're mounting an SQL database. You can use pandas for data analysis in using data from SQL. So that's another thing we are going to see as we go on. Then we can also embed database operations in apps. All right, so you can create apps because Python is one of those very powerful tools for creating apps these days. I mean, in the previous playlist where we're talking about data analysis with Python, you saw us doing dashboards with Plotly and Bokeh, which are interactive data visualization tools. So this integration also enhance product reproducibility and flexibility. Okay. Then let's talk about some Python libraries that make it possible to work on the SQL machine, right? So you have SQLite 3, which is a lightweight and built-in, which is lightweight and built-in. It's so SQLite 3 is built in Python, so that's one beautiful thing. You don't have to import it. I mean, you have to install it. It's already built into Python, so all you just need to do is to import it. You don't have to install like we've been doing for so many libraries like pandas, like NumPy, like SciPy, I've talked about pandas, right? Like Matplotlib, Seaborn, Plotly, and all of those things. Then we also have pandas here, which can help us analyze SQL results. And we have my SQL connector Python, which helps to connect uh, Python to my SQL. So if you want to use SQLite, you're welcome. If you want to also use my SQL, so if I wanted to continue with my SQL, which I used in the days of Oracle 9G, I could also, so I have this library now, my SQL connector Python to connect Python to my SQL. So it's really cool. Oh, okay. Somehow I jumped SQLAlchemy. I think it's about the newest idea I'm coming across as far as this is concerned. So this helps to combine ORM and SQL abstraction. You're wondering what is ORM and SQL? Of course, you already know SQL, right? ORM is object. Okay, we'll see it as we move on. I just forgot that now. Okay, so how do you set up the SQL environment. How do you set that up? So of course you need to install things like pandas, which we already have already, like which I already have on my system. If you are new to this whole thing, you can so you just need to open Jupyter Notebook and run pip install pandas SQLAlchemy, my SQL connector Python and all that. So depending on what you want to use, SQLite it does not have to be installed, just like I said, because it is inbuilt into Python already. So and once you install those libraries, then you can import, you can now create an SQLite database, like import SQLite 3. Having since it's already inbuilt, then you create a connection where it says con, and con is just a variable number. It's instructive. So you now connect to SQLite 3 and you connect to example DB. That's a database named example. So as we move on, you'll understand this better. Then, I mean, in the next video, this will be made pretty clear. In fact, the next two videos, then you create a cursor with which you connect, and you connect to the cursor. So you connect to the cursor, and then from the cursor you execute to create table. If not exist, users ID integer, primary key, name text, age integer. You're going to get this more clearly as we move on. Then you commit it to the database, and then you can now close the database once you're done with your operation. Okay, so let's look at some basic SQL commands. So SQL basics. So core SQL commands include things like select from where. So you want to select something from a particular table or something, or and where like that. Then insert into. So you can insert into a database. You can update. You can delete and all that. A very good example would be to select star. That's you are selecting from across anywhere possible from users. Maybe there's a table called users where age is greater than 18. So it means you are selecting everybody who is older than 18. Maybe you want something for adults, and adults who start from 18, like we know, right? Or I mean, yeah, thereabout. Okay. Then how do you query with Python now? So you have already imported SQLite 3, you have connected to the database called example, and then you have created a cursor, and then you have connected to the cursor, right? And then you can now do cursor execute. You just say cursor that execute. So this is how you now run this SQL query inside of Python, maybe using Jupyter Notebook. I think I've tried this with the first time I was learning about how to do SQL in Python. I think I was so the person that was teaching me was taking me through it in, I think, is it PyCharm or one of those other Python IDs. But for me, it was really, really somehow. It was somehow. So, but when I got when the person brought me to Jupyter Notebook, I mean, it was really easy and straightforward. So I rather prefer doing these extra things. Because normally if you're doing SQL, you don't need this extra cursor.execute thing. You just need to select star from users where age is greater than 19. That's all you need. But here you need the additional thing. But I think I don't mind because I'm already used to working with Jupyter Notebook. And because I always teach, it's Jupyter Notebook is very convenient for me. I can have everything in one place. I can write my codes, I can write my text, I can write equations, I can even show my plots, graphs, and things like that. Then you now have rows equals cursor.fetch all. So for row in rows, you now print the row. So you can now close. I mean, we are going to do all of this as we move on, so no worries. All right. So common SQL data types. Of course, we have integer in Python. Python, we have data types in Python. We also have integers there. Like we have integer string, we have Boolean, we have float, we have complex, and all that, right? So in SQL, we have integer for whole numbers. We have text and varchar for strings. We have real or float for decimals. We have Boolean, that's for true or false ideas. And you have date time for time stamps. Then, of course, you have resources that can be useful. So if you need something extra apart from what I do, I mean, just like I always do, right? I'm also going to create a Google Drive link where you can click and get all my data sheets and probably some databases I'm going to create if possible. So watch out for that. So now, so these are some resources you can have access to. So you have SQLAlchemy documentation. SQLAlchemy is also another way of connecting. It's a way of connecting Python with SQL, just like SQLite. So if you click on this now, it takes you to the SQLAlchemy uh, page. So the Python SQL toolkit and objects. Yeah, ORM is object relational mapper, object relational mapper, because we said SQL is a relational database kind of thing, right? So we have the Python SQL toolkit and object relational mapper. So SQLAlchemy is the Python SQL toolkit and object relational mapper that gives application developers the full power and flexibility of SQL. So SQLAlchemy helps to do some more advanced than SQLite. But SQLite has the advantage of being very light, and then you have tons of SQL stuff on your phones that you carry around. So it provides a full suite of well-known enterprise level persistence patterns designed for efficient and high performance access database access adapted into a simple and Pythonic domain language. So if you want to really go deep into SQLAlchemy, you can do that for sure. Of course, back here we have SQLite official site also. So it takes us to the SQLite page. So SQLite is a C language library that implements a small, fast, self-contained, high-reliability, full-featured SQL database engine. SQLite is the most used database engine in the world. You can see that. It is the most used database engine in the world. SQLite is built into all mobile phones and most computers and comes bundled inside countless other applications that people every day use. So if you have a phone, you are carrying you most likely have some SQL stuff going on your phone. So the SQLite file format is stable, cross-platform, and backwards compatible, and the developers pledge to keep it that way through the year 2050. SQLite database files are commonly used as containers to transfer rich content between systems and as long-term archival format for data. There are over 1 trillion, that's 10 raised to power 12 SQLite databases in active use. So SQLite source code is in the public domain and it's free. That's really beautiful, right? And it's free to everyone to use for any purpose. So the creators of these things have been so generous in giving the world these very useful gifts. Okay, so another thing is pandas documentation. Of course, we are not new to pandas. So this takes you to the Pandas site. And of course, Pandas is a fast, powerful, flexible, and easy to use open source data analysis and manipulation tool built on top of the Python programming language. So we use that a lot under data analysis with Python. Then we go back to this. Yes. Now, when I started my data journey about 3 years ago, interestingly, well, I've always worked with Microsoft Excel. I've worked with SQL at some level, like in 2009 or so. But when I came and I started doing the whole Python stuff, it was just around January 2023 or something like that. So W3 schools was really important, and they have different kinds of tutorials you can have there on Python, on databases, on anything like almost anything in tech you want to learn. So you have the W3 schools stuff. So they have an SQL training. So SQL is a standard language for storing, manipulating, and retrieving data in databases. Our SQL tutorial will teach you how to use SQL in MySQL, SQL Server, MS Access, Oracle. Yeah, I used mine in Oracle. Then that was my SQL in Oracle, 9G, Sybase, Informix, Postgres, and other database systems. So that's one resource you want to take advantage of. Then you have the Mode SQL tutorial. So the Mode SQL tutorial helps you to learn to answer questions with data using SQL. No coding experience necessary, interestingly so. Okay, so these are some extra resources you want to take advantage of as you learn SQL, in whatever domain you're interested in. So you can connect with me. This is my email address, ej@gmail.com, and this is my YouTube channel. By just clicking on this, it takes you straight to my page. And okay, let me see. This is because it's my page now, you won't be able to see what I was trying to say the other time. But if I open another, let me see. Yeah. So if this is another account now, so if I just go here and then so these are my videos right here. Nice. So with this now, so you can see this join thing. So you can actually be a member of this channel if you like. So you can be a bronze, you can have bronze access, silver access, and those come with some special privileges. Like if you're part of the bronze access, you have loyalty badges next to your name in comments and live chats, and you have priority reply to comments. So I get to see your comments easier than others, and I can answer faster. Then you can also we can connect on social media, even beyond YouTube. Then you have the silver access, which grants you all those things that the bronze people have, but then you can have early access to new videos, member shout outs, photos and status updates, members only videos. So I can make videos for I mean, just you, just people who are in silver access, and then you can have access to my PDF mathematics notes. You know, I teach math too, and I get to write things out on PDF. So if you need those documents, you can have access to them on request. And then you have the EJD Gold access. This is the highest level for now. And then I mean, so this one now includes one-on-one consultation. So if you have gold access, you can ring me up and then we can organize to meet up on whatever is of interest to you, maybe maths or Python or data analysis, data science, or SQL, things like that. Then we can meet up based on some schedule. All right. So it's up to you. Feel very free to go for anyone you would like. So let's learn together. That's all I'm about. That's what this channel is about. At this point, we'll come to the end of this introductory video to Python. I mean, SQL with Python. So keep learning, keep doing data right. If you have subscribed, thank you. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. And everyone, and don't forget to also hit the notification bell so you can always get alerted each time a new video is released. And be sure to like and share also so that more people can have access to this great content I have going on here. Till I come your way again, keep doing maths right. Bye. Keep doing data right too, right?